Bankless Nation, it is the very final day of Zuzalu. As we speak, people are packing up their apartments, their hotel rooms, and getting in their planes to go home. And it has been a long 2 months. Vitalik, we'll start this interview at the end because it is the end of this journey of trying to figure out what Zuzalu is. Do you feel like that you have come to an answer as to what Zuzalu is?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I think the yes part is basically like what this particular thing is. Like, it feels like we understand, what it means to bring, a few hundred people together for a few months from a couple of different communities and try to create interaction between people, help people learn about each other's interesting stuff that they're doing and just see like what kind of a community comes out of that. The thing that I think is still unclear is like sort of what lies in the future, I guess.
When the original ideas of Zuzalu came to be in your brain and in other people's brains about what this could be, like, was there any original intent? Like, what was the main goals before people actually arrived at this place that we now call Zuzalu?
So I'd been thinking about a lot of ideas in this space for a while before. So last year I read Balaji's book, The Network State, and I wrote my longest blog post ever. That was a review of it that just ended up being insanely long. I had also been thinking about like crypto cities in general, like more real world use cases of blockchains and zero knowledge proofs. And so the blog post I wrote on crypto cities 2 years ago is like one example of that. But I also had some other ideas that were since then. I feel like I'd been interested in the topics of decentralized governance going beyond like what it means for blockchains and trying to apply some of those ideas to other contexts and just the question of like what are I think I approached all of those issues from this frame of like what would actually be concretely valuable for people in the real world. And at some point the idea came to be to basically do an experiment and try all of those things at the same time. So the way that I think about the experiment is like conferences have thousands of people and they last for a week, right? And those already exist. Hacker houses last for a very long time, but they only have up to 10 and 20 people. Well, what about something that has 200 people, so more than a hacker house, and lasts for 2 months, so more than a conference, and it has both of those at the same time? And basically, bring people together from a couple of different communities with some medium level of organization, but realistically relying on people coming in to do most of the rest and just like see what actually comes out of that, right? Like basically instead of just the discussion about creating, new network states or new societies or towns or like any of these things being this kind of purely abstract thing where you have, blabbers counter blabbing each other's blabbing, we actually try this, live thing and just get a huge amount of real world and data and understanding of like what it actually means in practice and go from there.
You said what comes out of that being this space of 200 people for 2 months.
Right.
Well, what do you think something like Zuzalu or something like Zuzalu, what are the emergent characteristics that can come out of this landscape of size and time of 200-ish people for 2 months of time? What's unique about that setup?
I think the time duration is important because like 1 week is a break from your life, 2 months is your life, right? And so just the kind of mentality that you have, it becomes totally different. And the kinds of things that you're willing to do become totally different. There's time to like actually make new connections and actually start like doing things with people that you did not just kind of know before and brought from outside. It's also large enough, the number of people is large enough that it's big enough to hold like pretty big things with multiple sub-communities, right? Like, we had cryptography lectures that brought in 30 people. We had discussions about AI that brought in, like over 100 people. We had, some like various different health-related events like exercise, food, bio-tracking, everything. We, had cooking of different types. Like what are like Chinese karaoke is, hiking trips. And like in a group of 10, you're not going to get those things, right? In a group of 10, you're going to have one of those things. And like, I think one of the differences between a city and a family is like a city has neighborhoods and 200 is like big enough that it actually had neighborhoods, which was fascinating, right? So you actually got to see some interactions between communities. Got to kind of make some connections that did not exist before, even make some progress on some Ethereum related things. Had a good chance to talk to various different privacy teams and scaling teams, and talk to people working on social recovery and people working on privacy at the same time. So it's like there's just a lot of things that become possible, and it's interesting to see that even at this scale those kinds of things already become possible.